trying to make sense of what 2025 did to you and your business? Lean in, because this episode is for you. Did you know that only 1.9% of women business owners, 0.9% of Black business owners, and just 0.5% of Black women business owners ever crossed the $1 million mark? Well, that changes right here. If you are ready for high-level, high-income conversations about all things millions, your mission, your mindset, your methodologies, your mandate, your movement, your messaging, your marketing, your metrics, and of course, your money, just by listening, your income is going all the way up. Every week, you'll hear powerful stories, transformative interviews, and $1 million business growth insights to help you scale and sustain a 7-figure business with grace and ease instead of hustle and grind. I am your host, Dr. Darnyelle, award-winning spiritual business growth strategist, 8-figure entrepreneur, and God girl on a mission to help you experience abundance in your life because of your business. This is the Move to Millions podcast. Welcome home. Before we dive into this week's episode, let me ask you something real quick. If this podcast has ever made you think deeper, shift something in your spirit, or take bold, bankable action in your business, would you do me a favor? Would you take a moment and scroll down and leave us a rating or a review? Listen, this is how we grow the show. This is how we get it in front of more 7-figure CEOs and 7-figure CEOs in the making. Your words matter, and your support, it absolutely matters. So please take a moment to go ahead, rate and review, and then come right back, because this episode is about to get good. If this is your very first time here, welcome. I'm so excited to see you. I already know that this will not be your last. I am on a mission to transform your soul and your strategy so that you can make, move, leave, and net millions with grace and ease instead of hustle and grind. My best-selling book, Move to Millions, The Proven Framework to Become a $1 Million CEO, is a great place to start this powerful work, as well as this amazing podcast, if you want to acclimate yourself to the work that it is that I am called to do. This is season 7, and all season long, we are having a different conversation. This conversation is likely a conversation that you will not hear anywhere else, because this season is all about what happens when success is no longer the problem. Yes, your success is not now, nor has it ever been the question. Because let's be very, very clear. You are already a success. First of all, you are a child of the Most High God, and that in and of itself makes you successful. God called you prophet and gave you a message to share with the nations, and you are just out here doing your thing. And if that's not enough, my favorite scripture, Romans 8:31 says, if God be for you, who can be against you? So yeah, this season, we're getting to the heart of the matter about what's really keeping you from 7 figures. And it is not what you think. And in this market, getting the 7 figures probably has felt harder than ever. We are in a market that is not just testing businesses, it is testing leaders. It's exposing where systems are fragile. It's exposing where strategies are over-relied upon. And more than anything, it is exposing where leaders have built success without the internal capacity and infrastructure to sustain it. Trust me when I tell you, I work with established entrepreneurs and small business owners at 6 figures who know that they are meant for millions. And I see it all the time as I leverage my proven Move to Millions method to equip them to scale and sustain businesses that serve them financially and spiritually. This work is powerful. This work is life-changing. And since 2021, we have helped 85 entrepreneurs just like you experience their first or next 7-figure year. And we are now all about doing it in a way that honors who you are so that you ultimately net millions. And I'll be the first to tell you that netting millions will take 3 times the soul work that it takes of your strategy. Now, if you listened in or watched our last episode, then you already know this season is not about tactics and strategies. You already have enough of them. And spoiler alert, they all work. Now, if you haven't listened to the last episode yet, I do highly recommend that you make a beeline to the last episode so that you can come back here and be with us as we keep this party going. This season is about what happens when your external world changes faster than your internal world is prepared to respond. And let me be so clear with you that 2025 did not whisper this message. It broadcasted on the loudspeakers. This episode is not about what broke in 2025. It's about what was revealed in 2025, because the leaders who will thrive in 2026 are not the ones who have the best strategies. The ones who will thrive are those who have learned how to stabilize themselves when everything else is moving in chaos and uncertainty. Take a deep breath in, roll your shoulders, and settle in, because this conversation is about to be a game changer for you. Now, according to McKinsey & Company's global leadership research, more than 70% of large-scale transformation efforts fail. Now, they don't fail because the strategy is wrong. They actually fail because leaders and the organizations where they lead are not equipped to manage the emotional and the human load that accompanies change. I'm going to just let that sit right there for a second. Because here's what I know. Most leaders responded to the last few years by doubling down and doing more. More planning, more initiatives, more urgency, more pressure. But what the market actually was demanding from leaders was stability under uncertainty. So much is uncertain right now. The administration came in and changed the game, wrecking shop, and the market is still trying to catch its breath. Now, I have spoken to so many colleagues whose entire business blew up literally overnight with one executive decision. Dealing with that level of chaos and uncertainty is not a strategic skill. It is a leadership capacity skill. And the truth of the matter is, the market didn't expose a lack of intelligence. It actually exposed a lack of internal regulation. Now, I'm going to take a moment and do a quick sidebar. It probably seems like all of a sudden everybody and their grandmother is talking to you about your nervous system and how you're unregulated or dysregulated, right? It's because the market demands that we look beyond strategies right now. That's why it is bubbling to the surface and you're seeing it all the time and everywhere. But here's the thing, it's always been here. Truthfully, you getting to your next level has always been about identity and capacity. But most of the business coaches and strategists that you follow, they don't take the time to lay the internal and give it the strategy and the emphasis that it needs. They focus on the strategy because that's what you come to them for. And when it doesn't work, you end up blaming them instead of learning how to regulate and integrate. Well, not on my watch, not this season. That's why this entire season is dedicated to your internal world, or what I like to call soul leadership, based on our Move to Millions method. Now, not as a concept, but as a missing infrastructure component that determines whether your strategy can actually hold under the pressure that is happening in the market, in your life, all around, because we all know that life be lifing and life will continue to life. Now, here's the uncomfortable part. Most leaders don't fail when things fall apart. They struggle when things are unclear and uncertain. When what they should do next is not certain, it's not obvious, right? When the playbook that they've relied on for years suddenly stops working. When certainty begins to disappear and outcomes cannot be forced, that is when the rubber meets the road, because uncertainty does not test your intelligence, it tests your regulations. And in moments like this, leadership isn't exposed by what breaks externally, it's exposed by what is happening or not happening internally. Now, how quickly you rush to control, how much urgency you create to avoid the discomfort, how often you default to doing instead of stabilizing, all of those things and so much more is exactly what the environment that we are in right now is causing. This is not a crisis market. It's an ambiguity market, one that doesn't reward leaders who move the fastest, but it rewards leaders who can stay steady the longest and long enough to begin to see clearly. Now, here's one of the things that I'm always talking about with our students in our sanctuary program. Yes, there is a reason that your strategy feels stalled, and it's spiritual. Discover your divine wiring, which informs how you lead, where you're sabotaging, and how to make the shift to scale with the Move to Millions Ascension Archetypes quiz. In just 3 minutes, you'll learn what's really blocking your money, your momentum, and your mission. Take the quiz today at movetomillionsquiz.com. We have to understand that every single one of us has a success brain. It's our prefrontal cortex. That's where innovation and intelligence live. It's where you get creativity, where you can hear from and communicate with God. That is where the magic happens in your success brain. But guess what? We also have a survival brain, our amygdala. This is the fear center of the brain. As soon as your body begins to get a win to the fact that something has gone awry, something is off, something is not quite right, when you start having those Keith Sweat moments, your survival brain kicks in. And when your survival brain is online, guess what's offline? Your success brain. The two cannot occupy the same space. Now, you've probably heard the saying that faith and fear don't occupy the same space. Well, neither does your survival brain and your success brain. Only one is working at a time. And if you don't learn how to integrate, if you don't learn how to regulate, if you don't know how to expand the capacity of what safety means and what safety is for you, for your business, for your world, then your survival brain is going to kick in and it's going to kick your success brain to the curb, which means you will not be able to think and reason. You will not be able to make decisions. You will not be able to steward your business in the direction that your strategy started to fail you in. Listen, I get it. I see it all the time. It's why we're doing the work that we're doing inside a sanctuary, because you deserve to feel safe with success and with wealth, especially now. So there are some questions that are likely coming up when you experience this uncertainty, right? It's not what strategy should I use? The real question is, what kind of leader does this market require me to become? Take a deep breath, wriggle your shoulders, and I want you to lean in, because this is the question that is going to shift everything. This question will turn your old leadership model on its head and will explain why it has collapsed. Because for a very long time, leadership was about control. Cue Janet Jackson, I'm in control. You control the plan, you control the pace, you control the outcome. That model worked in stable and predictable markets. But this right here, this market we're in right now, listen, this volatile, complex environment, control begins to become brittle. Leaders who rely solely on being in control feel it first in their body. It shows up as tightness, as hypervigilance, as decision fatigue, a constant sense of scanning for risk and danger. Not because you're weak, not because something's wrong with you, not even because something's wrong with your business, but because your leadership is outdated. The leaders who struggle the most in this current market are not the ones who are underskilled. They're the ones who over-identified with being the one who holds everything together. And that identity comes at a significant cost. I was just having a conversation with a client who, by all measures, if you look at them on paper, if you look at them online, everything that they're doing is exactly right. Their business is profitable. Even in a year like 2025, they experienced a profitable year. Their team is solid. Their strategy, very sound. Nothing at all was wrong or broken. Yet, when the market started shifting, her body was constantly on edge. She literally told me that she felt tight all the time, like she couldn't breathe. She wasn't having good night's sleeps. She wasn't restoring herself overnight. Her decision-making felt so much heavier, even though she was indeed making good decisions. Now, this was the constant sense of scanning for danger, like she needed to stay one step ahead in order to feel okay, because she also felt like the shoe was about to drop. At first, she did what all capable leaders do. She went back to strategy. She tweaked the plan. She added structure. She tightened timelines. But the more she optimized, the more exhausted she became. And that was the moment she said something that changed the entire direction of our work together. She said, I don't think I'm failing. I think I'm overloaded. Not operationally, but inside. She said, my system just feels all jumbled up. She realized that the market exposed a flaw in her leadership, not a flaw in her intelligence. It exposed her internal capacity and that it hadn't caught up to the level of responsibility that she was holding, growing her business by more than 20% 2 years in a row. Once we stopped acting like she had a strategy problem and we started to address what was really going on, the level of uncertainty she felt, which kicked her survival brain into gear and shut off her success brain, everything began to shift. Now, no one goes to bed a blunder and wakes up a wonder. So it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. There were no fireworks. There was nothing dramatic. It began to happen steadily. I've literally watched clients that I've been working with inside of our mastermind literally start to engage and practice this that regulates their nervous system on a daily basis. And we've literally watched their business shift on a trajectory and go up and up and up and up. Not massively, not overnight, not a big bulk, but subtly, but steadily, because they've learned how to integrate regulation into the daily practices that they ensue as the CEO of their own business on a trajectory to generate millions of dollars a year. This is what this season is all about. Because what I know is that when your decisions become cleaner and your urgency tends to soften, when you stop over-managing outcomes and start leading from stability instead of tension, your business, just like my client's business, it won't suddenly change directions, but it will slowly but surely stabilize. And as it stabilizes, you'll notice that your results tend to even out and uptick in the direction that you have been desiring all along. Now, this is the reason why we've started to focus on the soul at 3 times the rate we focus on the strategy. It's, if you ask me, the new standard. Now, what the current market makes completely undeniable is this: strategy without internal stability actually creates fragile success. I mean, listen, it looks impressive. It scales quickly, but guess what? It collapses quickly under pressure. The leaders who will thrive in 2026 are not the ones who are the most aggressive. The ones who will thrive are the ones who are the most integrated. They will know how to regulate themselves under uncertainty. They will make decisions without rushing to take control. They will hold responsibility without carrying it alone. They will lead without abandoning their bodies or their values. And just to be clear, that's not being soft. That is what I call advanced leadership, soul leadership at the highest of levels. And that is why success is now a somatic and identity-based conversation, not just a strategic one in my world. I really want to make sure that you understand that making this shift in the way that you show up is going to be the game changer that allows you to finally cross 7 figures, because the market hasn't just changed tactily, it has changed developmentally. In a growth market that we were in during COVID-19, speed and urgency, they are rewarded. But in a mature market like we are in right now and will be in until 2028, discernment, stability, and internal coherence are where the reward is found. It is incumbent upon you to recognize this significance and to do the work that is required. It is why I started the program Sanctuary. You deserve to be the sanctuary, the safe place, the place of refuge that allows you to experience the ebbs and flows of the market, of business, of entrepreneurship without losing it every single time something goes awry. I literally have clients who 80 to 90% of their business is government contracting. And with one fell swoop, the administration canceling so many agencies' contracts that they had open for bid, many of whom my clients had won, one of which I had won, a $1.5 million contract that is on hold until who knows when. But I didn't panic. I didn't pivot and abandon ship. I was able to remain steady, to stay surrendered, and to focus in on the areas of business where we were not being canceled. Yes, there is a reason that your strategy feels stalled, and it's spiritual. Discover your divine wiring, which informs how you lead, where you're sabotaging, and how to make the shift to scale with the Move to Millions Ascension Archetypes quiz. In just 3 minutes, you'll learn what's really blocking your money, your momentum, and your mission. Take the quiz today at movetomillionsquiz.com. And we were able to still have a 7-figure year. Now, this is the reason why it is so important that you make the shift. Because if you don't, you'll continue to be a capable leader that feels unsettled. And it's not because you're behind. It's because you're early to a new leadership demand. Now, this stage does not respond to more hustle or even to sharper positioning, even though you might hear that in the market right now. It responds to leaders who can hold uncertainty without urgency and lead without overcompensating. Now, that's not a strategy shift. That's a leadership identity shift. And if this market feels harder to navigate than the growth market we were in just a few years ago, it's not because you've lost your edge somehow. It's because the market is no longer rewarding performance alone. It's rewarding leaders who are internally stable enough to adapt without panicking, without proving, and without rushing. This is the skill that you need to most learn right now, which is why this season is not about your success, because that is not the question. This is actually what happens when leadership enters into an integration stage. The work shifts from doing more to holding differently. And if you're wondering where to begin, it starts right here, right now. Not by changing your strategy, but by changing what you believe your job is in moments of uncertainty. This market is not asking you to move faster, even though we have AI, even though new innovations are popping up at the speed of light. It's asking you to stay regulated long enough to make clean, clear decisions instead of being reactive. Now, before you ask, what should I do next? Know that the better question is what needs to stabilize in me so that I don't lead from urgency. This is the difference makers for leaders who will thrive in 2026. Because here's the part that most leadership conversations tend to miss. Uncertainty does not affect leaders evenly. It exposes them differently. The pressure that you feel right now, it is not random. It's interacting with how you are wired to lead. So it's important that you understand how you're wired. This is why the same market that destabilizes one leader actually matures another. And this is exactly where your ascension archetype comes in. Your ascension archetype is going to reveal how uncertainty shows up in your body, how you instinctively respond when outcomes cannot be forced, and where you are most likely to overcompensate instead of stabilizing. Now, for my performers, uncertainty pressures visibility. You feel the pull to be seen, to explain, to reassure, to stay on, even when clarity has not landed yet. If you're a producer, uncertainty tends to magnify responsibility. You feel the weight of holding everything together, maintaining stability, and doing more to keep things from wobbling. For my path makers, uncertainty tests your vision. You are going to be asked to hold what you see without immediate validation or proof that others are ready to follow you. For powerhouses, uncertainty challenges your control. You are going to have to learn how to release the grip without losing momentum and authority in the process. And for my prophets, uncertainty tends to intensify your perception. Now, you can sense what's coming. You're a prophet after all. But staying grounded while the rest of the room catches up becomes the work that you have to do, and it takes the most out of you. Each archetype isn't being corrected. It's about being developed. You're not being asked to abandon who you are. You are actually being asked to deepen your leadership capacity under the pressure of the current market. As I said just a few moments ago, in case you missed it, we're going to be in this market until 2028. And that is why knowing your wiring is no longer an option. Now, if you have not taken the Ascension Archetype quiz yet, it takes 3 minutes. It will show you how you are divinely wired to lead, to scale, and succeed. It'll show you how you relate to money, and it will show you where uncertainty is currently triggering patterns that quietly sabotage your next level. Because in this market, effort isn't failing you. Misalignment under pressure actually is. Now, I am not saying that you're not going to have to employ strategy. No, there is still strategy. But what I am saying is that strategy is not going to trump the work that you need to do on your soul. You're going to have to do both. In fact, you're going to have to work on your soul at 3 times the rate you're working on your strategy. In order to do that, you're going to have to understand the science. You're going to have to understand the somatics. You're going to have to understand the spirit, and you're going to have to understand the strategy. All 4 are going to have to come together through a strategic infusion in order for you to come out of this year at 7 figures. This is the work that I am doing. This is what this season on the podcast is dedicated to. So I want you to recognize where you are. I want you to stop what you're doing, go to movetomillionsquiz.com and take that Ascension Archetype quiz. I need to know if you're a performer or a producer or a path maker or a powerhouse and a prophet, and you need to know it too. It's going to begin to explain why you've tried someone else's strategy and it didn't work. This is not the time to be trying to fit a round circle into a square hole. This is not the time. This is not the time to take what someone else suggests for you as a blanket, as a rubric, without changing it, modifying it, pivoting it so it fits how you are divinely wired. This year, your leadership is at stake. Your leadership is what's going to determine the speed with which, the certainty with which, and the safety with which you achieve 7 figures inside of your business. I hope you're ready to have an amazing conversation that you are likely not going to have anywhere else. Listen, lean in, stay tapped in, because this is where you need to be. Now, if the last episode helped you to see that hard work is not the problem anymore, then this episode is meant to help you to understand why the market exposed that truth for you so very clearly. And in our next episode, we are going to go even deeper. We're going to talk about why success itself can start to feel unsafe as you level up, and what happens internally when your external life begins to outpace your sense of safety. Y'all, I'm excited. I feel warm and fuzzy right now because this is where the real conversation begins if you've got 7 figures on your mind. And I'm excited to be having this conversation with you. This market won't break your leadership. Let's be clear, it will refine it. And the leaders who are willing to evolve, not just execute, will be the ones who build something sustainable and get yourself in position to actually net millions. Now, if this episode stirs something inside of you, I want you to stay with me. I want you to go and take the quiz, and I want you to start your journey to making, moving, leaving, and netting millions without having to grind your way to that milestone. This season is not about reacting faster. It is about becoming steadier. Thank you for joining me for the Move to Millions podcast. Every 7-figure CEO has a divine design, and yours is waiting to be revealed. Take the Ascension Archetype quiz today at movetomillionsquiz.com, and you'll uncover how you're wired for wealth and what needs to shift in order for you to make the move with grace and ease instead of hustle and grind. Now, if this episode blessed you, do me a favor, subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And always remember, millions are your birthright, and to access them, you need only move. Take care.